So if you guys don't know me, I'm the Fibski. Obviously, I trade with the Fibonacci retracement stuff, but I also do the ORB and the OPR. And I always get a lot of questions of what's the ORB and what's the OPR. There's several different ways to do the ORB. And the normal way of doing the ORB, which is opening range breakout, is usually the 15-minute or the 30-minute. So for example, I'll switch my chart if you guys can see it to the 15-minute. And it's basically the high and low a day, or you can even use a 5-minute chart, 3-minute chart. You just go by the candles, how many candles. But you want to go, so if this is the 5-minute chart, the first 3 candles will be 15 minutes. And what you do is you draw the high of that 15-minute and a low of the 15-minute. And then what you want to do is wait for it to break that and then come back and retest it. And then obviously, like for here, you'd want it to break back down, which it didn't do. So it broke there. This red candle, I guess you could say it retested there. So if you wanted to get in on this red candle and play it down and then get in, you know, and take profit. And then you can do it on a 30-minute too, the same way, but you draw the high and low of that 30-minute, and then once it breaks out, you can even do it to the upside here. You can play it all day. So here, it broke up, come back. I guess you could say that's some form of a retest, and then get back in. Over here, same thing. Come back, retested it, and then if you wanted to get back in, but that's not how I play it. I just do the first 3 minutes or 5 minutes. Usually I start with the 3-minute first and see what's going on, and I'll chart the 3-minute off the very first candle, regardless if it's red or green. It doesn't matter to me, but I'll use the first candle. One of the caveats though is for it to really probably be a decent play, you go off the high and low of the previous day. If we open up outside that high and low, usually it means there'll be a pretty decent move in the morning, and the orb play will be pretty good. So like for here, an example, the previous day, there's the high. Obviously we opened up way above it, and wherever it closes at too, if it opens up a pretty big gap from where it closed the night before, usually it means that orb play is going to be pretty good. Regardless, I look at it every day just because it's how I play. It's one of my strategies that I play on a daily basis. So I can really care less where it opens up at. But I do watch it because, like I said, if it opens up outside that area, usually it means it's going to be pretty good. So for example, how it will be played, I'll just go for a replay, that way it'll be easiest. So when a day opens, I'd already have my high and low lines drawn, and we know this is going to open a little higher. So the first candle, I'll wait for that first candle to print, wherever the hell it. Now I have to hit auto again. Okay, there it is. It's way up top. So after that first candle prints, I'll watch and see what the next candle is going to do. Man, shit. I need to show you why I didn't play the 3-minute orb. So where are we at? 15 minutes right in here. So watch how this candle prints. The bad thing about TradingView, it doesn't show you the full 3-minute. It'll show you 2 stages of the candle. It'll like either open up, down, and then it finishes close. So if you watch it, as I'm watching that first candle, what I do is I wait to see how it's opening. Is it going to be a doji candle? Is it a strong candle? Because if it's just a doji candle, usually it means I'll skip the 3-minute and I'll go to the 5-minute because there's so much indecision. So I'm hoping I got it in the right area here. So if you watch how this candle prints, it's going to be real quick. Oh shit, too damn quick. What the? Let's try that again. What is it, the 14th? So the 15th would be right about here. All right, so I'll do one candle at a time. Watch how it. So you see how it wicked down and it was like almost a doji. So when it did that, I was like, I'm not going to play the 3 minute. I'm going to move to the 5 minute. But you could still play the 3 minute here. I chose to switch to the 5 minute. So what I'm going to do now is on this next candle, like I said, regardless of where it breaks either high or low, what I'm going to look for is just to break above or below that. And when it does that, there's two different ways you could play it. You could jump in right away. The safer bet is to see if it's going to retest and then jump in. So watch, like I said, this candle, I'm not sure if it does the same thing, double prints. So you see how it printed down and then back up? So since it didn't really break the high or the low of that previous candle, you don't get in. That wouldn't be an ORB play. But what I found what you can do is you could play instead off at first 3 minute candle, you can choose to play off the second 3 minute candle. Same thing, if it breaks above it or below it, that's the direction you're going to get in. Now, if the third candle was the same thing where it didn't break the high or low, then I completely forget about the ORB. I don't just keep playing it all day waiting for a candle to break the high or low. If it doesn't do it within these first two candles, I just ignore the ORB. So, for example, this will be, see if you get in or not. It broke that second candle to the downside, so as soon as it breaks below there, again, you can either get in. Like I said, it's hard to tell on TradingView if it actually printed up first and then pushed down. But once it broke at is when you get in. For me, how I do my profit targets and stop loss, that's where the FIBs come in. The FIB with the extensions. Now what I do is whichever candle I use to get in, so like this second candle here is what I went off of, so that's where I'll draw my FIBs. If I got in on the second candle because I went off the first candle, I would draw my FIB on that first candle, but I'm going to draw it on the second candle, to the high, to the low. Obviously, you have to expand it to see.
Hey, question for you.
Sure.
Do you find yourself sometimes having to use market orders to get in, or missing it, for instance, because it's moving so fast with the limit orders?
What I do is I'll have it's set already of, hey, I'm getting ready to either do a put or a call on my Weeble, and then I usually buy the asks because it'll get me in right away. So for example, here as soon as it breaks it'll start moving down, so I'll buy the ask, and I usually never have a problem getting in. But so for here, for example, like I said, I switched to the 5 minute here, but I'm just showing you if you would have stayed on the 3 minute, it would have worked. How I take profits would be once it breaks the 272, once it hits the 272, I usually get 5. And what I'll do is I'll take 2 off on the 272 and then 2 more off on the 5. And then I usually leave a runner on. So there, I would have took, at least 2 off here. And then on this candle here, how strong it is pushing down, I probably wouldn't have taken the 2 off. Right there, I would have rode that candle the whole way down. And then I would have been like, okay, first green candle, I'm getting completely out. As soon as it starts retracing on me is when I would get out on this. So I'd stay in there. And then once it pulled back, you see how it went red? I would have stayed in, but as soon as it pulled back to green is when I would have exited on that. As soon as it started forming the green candle is when I would have got out. But I didn't play the 3 minutes, so what I did on this day, like I said, whenever it formed a doji here on this first candle, I switched to the 5 minute and did basically the same thing on the 5 minute chart. So by the time I switched over to 5 minute, this candle was already printed. So I was like, all right, I know this is a doji too, so I'm like, man, am I going to go off this first candle or not? And that was the second one. It was strong, so I did jump in on it. I think I ended up getting in a little bit further down. But normally I'd wait, but since it was such a strong push-down candle, I got in a little bit further down. And then you just draw the FIBs off the top to the bottom line. Oh, I forgot to tell you, my stop loss when I do get in is this 382 line on the FIB. So if a candle forms above that 382, I'll get out. This candle here, if you watched it when it printed, it just wicked. It didn't actually form a candle above there. The wick just shot up and shot straight back down. So I wouldn't get out on an actual wick. This candle would have had to keep pushing, and as soon as it crossed that 382 is when I'd get out on it. My profit target again was the 382 level, or the 272. So I took 2 out there, and I left a 3 on here, and then actually when it hit the 5, because it hit the 5 here, I think I took the other 2 off and I left that runner on. And when I leave the runner on, what I'll do is I'll either move my stop loss. Well, my stop loss is a mental stop loss, so basically my entrance point is my exit point now, because I'm not going to lose money. Or that's if it pulls back right away. But as soon as it's a green candle, I'll get out of my my runner. So I'd leave the runner on there. I left it on there. I wrote it down. So on that candle again is whenever I got out of my runner. It was way down here on that 5-minute chart. And then after I do that, the fibs, I'll redraw the fibs, but that's a total different aspect of it, or of trading. But what I like to do again, I start with the 3-minute, and if I didn't like how that first candle was printing, I'll switch to the 5-minute. Or on this second candle here, as it was printing, it really, maybe I didn't switch over to the 5-minute right away. I was watching this 3-minute, and it was down here at the bottom and pulling back up. I'm like, well, it's the 3-minute's not really a play. I'm going to switch over to the 5-minute, and then I would have switched over to the 5-minute. And the 5-minute's the same way. If, say, this second candle here didn't break the high or low of this first candle, I'll play the third candle on the 5-minute to see if it did break it or not. So it's basically the same thing, it's just a different time on there. Let me get out of the replay here. And what I did before the chat today, I went back and I back tested the 2 months. So I went back to May 14th and I posted it in the chat. But for the 3-minute, there was 32 out of 35 plays that actually were playable. That were there's 32 wins out of 35, so 3 losses on it. On the 5-minute side of it, in that 2 months, out of 41 plays, 38 of them were wins, 3 of them were losses. Yeah, it's being recorded. So what I'll do now is, like, this is the 5-minute chart, so I'll go and show you a couple days where it was a bad play, it wouldn't have worked. That way you don't, it's because it's, like I said, it's not every day is going to be a winner. So let me scroll back here because it was June. All right, June 28th I stopped out. So June 28th. 28th, here it is. That don't seem right. I don't think I got in on it because I want to go in here. Oh yeah, I did. So see here, this big green candle, obviously it printed up. This little one broke to the high side, so I got in on that little candle there when it broke it. And when I draw my fibs, it's on auto, but my target was this 272 line up here is where my target was. It didn't even hit my first target, so I was waiting. It's either going to hit my target or stop me out. So the 382 level is my stop. So this green candle come down here with that wick, that wouldn't have stopped me out. This red candle, I stayed in on that red candle because it wicked below it and it really didn't close. It still closed above that 382, so I was hoping, normally what it'll do is this 382 is a pullback and it'll push back up. This candle here, once it started actually forming the body below that 382 is where I got stopped out on this day. So obviously I lost on that day. I didn't on that trade there specifically. Let's see, 623. All right, so on this day, here's where I actually would hold. I think I held on this. So it broke that first candle. Draw my fibs right to there. So on this one here, obviously, I got in here. The second candle pulled back on me, but it didn't break at 382. It wicked above it, but the candle didn't form above it. It just ended up wick back down, so I stayed in it. And then again, well, on this first candle, I took some off once it hit that 272, so I took 2 off and I still had 3 riding. This candle here, I was worried. Same thing on this one, it wicked above it, but then it come down here and it hit no, it didn't hit the 5 yet. The second candle here hit my 5, so I got out of the 2, left my runner on, and then this green candle, when it started forming, is when I got out. So this just shows, like, I don't get in and out right away. Yeah, I took profits here. I waited to see if this hit my stop loss. It didn't hit my stop loss, so I kept it on. And then on that green candle is when I ended up getting out on that one. And then 615 was a bad day, I think. It was a bad trade on here. Which means, like, 615. So on this green candle, on the 5, obviously I wouldn't have got in because that's a doji. Obviously it didn't work here because of the it didn't break it. So here would have been an entrance point. I don't know why I wrote down that it's a bad. It looks like it's a good trade. And it hit all the actual profit targets there, so it must have been the 3-minute that the 615 was a bad one. Yeah. So once I switch over to the 3-minute, I'll show you how that was bad. Now on 6-9, I'm going to show you why you have to have that profit target. You got to have stop losses and targets too, because this one here hit the target quick. So obviously first candle, that second candle, I used the second candle to get in on. It broke below it, and as you can see, it hit my first profit right there, to 382. So I took 2 off. It hit the second one, the 5, so I took the other 2 off. This next candle, I got out of my runner, and I'm glad I did, because you can see it ran back up. It definitely would have stopped me out. So that's why you have to have a a set target of where you want to get out, and not like, okay, I could hold it, because if I would have been holding it thinking, okay, it's going to keep pushing down, then this big strong green candle come up, I wouldn't have made money. I would end up losing. So you have to have a good profit target. However you use it, you don't have to use the fibs. It could be, hey, I'm going to get in, once it breaks, as soon as it turns, a green candle, I'm getting out regardless. That could be your profit taken. It's whatever you want. You don't have to, like I said, use specifically the fibs to do it. So that's on the 5-minute. Now the 3-minute, where was the date we had? 6/13. So 6/14. Delete these. So this is one of the days I actually switched to the 5. So on this first candle, it was this doji. As you can see, there's a lot of indecisions, both up and down. Again, it's up to you if you want to play off at, which it would have worked here. But since it's so small, to me, that's really not a good break of it. Yeah, it did break down, but there's so much indecision there. So once I saw that candle, I actually switched over to the 5-minute chart and played the 5-minute chart. But again, that's just a decision that, if you guys decide to play this orb, you use the strategy, it's something you'll have to play with and decide, okay, I'm going to get in on this. I know the one guy, he'll get in on it right away like that. He'll jump in, and he would have made some decent money here too. But that's all on you, how you want to play it. This one here, again, it broke above that first candle, and this is the one I showed you on, I believe it was on the 5 minute, I think, where, you know, I'd be playing to the upside, and then it, you know, I would have got stopped out on that because it, yeah, it broke it a little bit, but that would have been a loss getting in on it. 622 would have been a no trade, so where's 622 at? Auto, yeah. 622. So here, you see it didn't break the high or low of that first candle. So this is if you were to stay on the 3 minute. It didn't break the high or low. The second candle, this third one didn't break the high or low. So after that, that would have been a no trading of the orb. It would have been, okay, it's not going to work this day, so I'm not going to do it. Or I would have switched to the 5 to see what the 5 would have did. Same thing on this day here, I think. Actually, this day here, I wouldn't have jumped in there because of the doji. So this second red candle, and then this third candle here, it didn't break, so I wouldn't have got in on this play, but I would have switched to the 5 minute to see what the 5 minute would have did. Skadoosh asked about the wicks. I don't play when I'm using the orb. I don't use the wicks as, hey, that counts as a breaking. I use the body, because if the body's, like I said, it depends. Trading view, you have to hit a replay and see how it's actually moving, and it's so hard because sometimes, like trading view, it's not going to show whether this actually was a body moving down or not, and that's what sucks about the trading view chart whenever you go back and look at it. I wish I had toss, because I think toss has it'll actually show you what the candle does. We'll see here. Let's see what this does here. So here, yeah, that would have been, you know, you could have got in on that candle there. How it printed down, I would have jumped in on that candle, and that would have been a stopped out play there on that one, because it ended up coming back up. Right there would have stopped me out on this green candle, because I would have played. So actually this candle here would have hit my 382 level and would have stopped me out on that one. But I would have switched to the 5 minute. I wouldn't have played the 3 minute on here because of this doji candle. I'm trying to think if there's anything else on the orb. And that's basically on the orb plays. That's it. It's quick and easy. And my goal there with the orb is to try to get green in the morning. Like I said, I usually take profits quick. That's why I have it set at, when I do my fibs, I have it set at that 272 level, because I want to make sure I take profits and get profits quick and start the day green. Because, you know, when you start the day green, it feels good. You know, it's overall better. The 382 up here, yeah, it's pretty big. You know, it's what, if you're going by the break of that candle there, you know, that 382's what, the 3 fibs back, and the take profit is 1, 2, 3 fibs points down. You know, the risk reward, it all depends. I think D-Bot, he actually did the math on the risk reward for me, and it ended up being like 2-to-1 for risk reward ratio on the win versus loss, like stopped out versus your wins on that, on the orb play. But any questions on the orb before I push on to the other one?
I got a question, but I'd like to save my question for last, because I want to kind of share my screen and get your opinion on something. So.
All right, cool. Anybody else got any questions on orb? Like I said, the better way of playing it is if it breaks the high, or, you know, it opens up outside the high or low day. That usually means there's going to be some decent movement, and it'll definitely be a pretty decent play in the morning. play around with it. When I started with one contract till I got comfortable. Like I said, I started playing the orb back in May, and in June I upped it to 5 contracts because I got confident in it, and it just, you have to honor your stop loss. Like I said, if you don't honor your stop loss, you will get burnt so damn bad, because that's what I used to do. I wouldn't, oh yeah, I have a stop loss here, and I never did honor it, and I got burnt so bad. So it took a talk from Jimmy for me to actually start honoring my stop losses. The next one is OPR, which is opening point of control retracement. This one, the indicator is the SVP. It's old timer, help me out here. What the hell does that even stand for? Volume profile, I think. Session volume profile, I believe it is.
Yeah, session volume profile.
And how this one, you play with this one, basically each day. So what I'll do is I'll print out the day before, and I just draw the line of that's the value area. Of course, I'll do it in purple, but I'm just going to do it real quick here. And then the POC is that white line there. So just for purposes, so if this day was to open up between these green lines, there's a very high probability, and actually when I went back and did it only lets me go back until I think June 8th. For some reason it won't print the volume profile lines prior to June 8th. I'm not sure if it only does it like a month behind, but 100% of the time it'll actually come back and hit that POC, at least in the 9 times that it actually opened up within it. Usually it hits it quicker. The one time I counted it as a loss, it didn't hit it till like almost 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and if you were to get in, nobody would hold, at least I hope you wouldn't hold that far. But with this play, how you do it is, take these lines off. Like I said, it doesn't do it all the time, but what you're looking for is the open of the day to open up within the previous day's value area. So, right here is the bottom of it. It didn't open up. So this day here, it basically, I'd say that counted as open up, because as soon as it opened, it wicked right up into the value area. And as you can see, it hit the POC almost, on the very first candle, 3-minute candle. Within 3 minutes, it hit that POC. So how I'd play it would be, if the POC is close to where it's at, I would jump in. For me, I jump in it right away. I'll jump in a call because it's opening up down here. I will jump in a call knowing that it's probably going to hit this POC within, especially when it's opening this close. I'd say within the first 15 minutes, it's probably going to hit it. So that's how I play it. You could play it more cautious and wait and see especially if it opened up down, and wait for, hey, is it going to start tracing back up before you go for that? So like, see, for some reason it doesn't. There it is. The POCs on here don't always print. See, on this one here, it really didn't open up within it. It wicked up in there, but it started down below. But if you drew the line and you wanted to play, this would have been an aggressive if you wanted to try to play it. I probably would have got in, and then I would have stopped out because it would have dropped too damn low. But it eventually did come up and hit that POC level. But I probably wouldn't have got in there because it didn't really open up inside the POC or the value area. So this one here, I think it may opened up, yeah. So this one here opened up within this value area. And then how I usually play it, if it's a red candle, even though that started going up towards it, what I like to do is to see it push away from it, and then I'd get in. So like this green candle, I actually would have got in, and then of course I would have stopped out here. But it did hit it eventually up here at the, here. And that's the thing. If it doesn't hit it within, I'd say, that first 30 minutes, then if I'm in it, I'll get out. And my stop loss here, when I use it, is basically, it's what my area, what do I feel? Was it 10%, 20%? Usually it'd be 20%. Hey, if it's 20%, I'm getting the hell out then. Where's another one? I think it opened up here, didn't it? This one, again, it didn't really, at the start, you know, I think on the red candle, it actually opened up here and pushed down, I believe. Is that correct on these red candles? I think that's how it started. It started up here and then pushed down. So that would have probably been one to play. Where's another here? Actually, I've got them written down like a dumbass. Here we go. What day is this? The 23rd. It did it on the 23rd. So here it opened up within the value area. And a lot of times what it'll do is it'll hit it right away. Like here, it wicked up and hit it. So I didn't even get in it on here. Like I said, I usually play the orb play, but I watch for this OPR just to see. But usually it'll hit it within the first few minutes when it does open up.
These guys are dedicated.
23rd, and the 17th.
Oh yeah, you wanted to burn that paper. Now I know.
So here, where's it? It opened up again. This green candle here opened up. Hold on a minute. This green candle opened up and it come up here and hit it on, like, again, that first candle, ended up hitting it, the POC level. The 14th is another day it opened up within the POC. Here it opened up here, and again it pushed down and ended up hitting it. So as for the play, when to play it, again, to me, what I like to do is if it's pushing away from it, and then I'd get in on a green candle that I'm thinking, okay, it's going to start pushing up to it. Of course, this pushed away from it, so this green candle I would have got in, and then I would have stopped out here, but I played the orb on that instead of the POC on that day. The 9th would have been another one. No, it didn't open up. Why the hell do I have the 9th written down? It's the 8th. So this one opened up within the value area. Again, it pushed down, and then again I would have got in on this green candle, thinking it was going to come up, and it just wicked on there. I'm not even sure if it wicked. And it's like anything, if it comes close enough to your area or your target area, obviously you get out. If I played that, I wouldn't have said, oh, it didn't hit my line, I'm not getting out, and then look what happens. I'd have been like, well, that's close enough, I'm getting the hell out. You know, it hit my profit. And then here, it didn't open up. I think that's all the further back it let me look earlier. Yeah, see, for some reason it doesn't populate anything previous to that. So that's the OPR play. So if you hear me guys say about, hey, I'm watching the OPR, that's basically what I'm looking for. Again, I usually play the orb before I play the OPR because it's very rare that, you know, just it'll play out. And so I usually play the orb the first thing. Again, I'll watch that first candle and then I'll switch to the 5 minute if that first candle's not too good. And then after the orb's done, I'll switch over to playing, you know, the fib plays. But any questions on that or the orb? Let me go here and look and see if anybody's. Let's see here. Oh, never mind. Cool. So no questions on that. I was going to go over to fibs today too, but I think I'm going to hold that for another day unless you guys don't mind me talking some more and I could go over how I play the fibs. It's up to y'all. Everybody fall asleep? Is my mic even working?
Nah, you're good, man. I'm just.
I know,
somebody
right?
ask some questions.
Oh yeah. I'm just familiar.
So you guys want me to go over a little bit of fibs or just?
Fib it up, kid. You know you want to.
All right.
Teach us your ways.
Yeah. So, well, I usually do this in chat too. I believe I was calling it out on Friday, but of course I got in on the 5-minute orb. So on there, I played it down to here, and then I don't worry about my fibs until I'm out of that play. So obviously I had the fibs drawn for my profit target, wherever it was. You know, I'd hit my profit target, and we'll say this green candle was where it printed, which was so then I switch back to the 3-minute. So it'd be 3, 6, 9. It's probably down here, this green candle. So then I'll go back and I'll draw the fibs from the high day. I believe it was to the low day here. Would have been that one. And how I play them, obviously it was a downtrend here, so I'm expecting to keep going down. No stock will just keep running. It's going to keep going down, 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 down. There's going to be some form of retracement, and that's what the fib lines are for. Normally the 382 line is a good line where it'll bounce off of, and then from the 382 usually to the 618. The 786 is another good one, but usually once it breaks that 786, there's a good probability it's going to continue going to the upside or to the downside if fibs continuing down. So I'll draw the fibs, and on this green candle here, let me go back to my actual chart that I use. This is going to be all messy. A lot of shit on here. I started using the supply demand zone, so that's why you see red and green rectangles. That's supply and demand zones. And I trade off of should be the 5-minute, the 3-minute, and the 5-minute chart. And the reason why I do that is because the RVSI, that's this line here. The next one is the weighted and unweighted graph, and the bottom is the RSI and the stochastics. So let me draw my fib. So I draw my fib lines, and what I'm looking for is that 382 level, see if it's going to bounce. But since the RV was green here, I won't get into a put because that's telling me, hey, this is still it's going up. The weighted is close to the 0 line. That tells me it's either going to be chop or it's going to continue up if it breaks that line. Obviously the RSI is pushing up. The stochastics is all pushing up. So the whole time here I'm thinking, okay, this is probably, if it's not bouncing back down below this 382, it's probably going to continue to push up. And obviously it did here. I don't get in on it because I'm waiting for a retracement. So I didn't get in on that run to the upside. On the upside of it is once it breaks that fib anchor point, what I'm looking for now is I'll reverse my fibs to the upside. I'm going to hide all this all these rectangle hide. Try to get some of this stuff off the chart. Because what I did, I already plotted for Monday. I'm preparing for Monday. That's why all these other lines are on here. Shit, I thought I got them off. Why is that yellow line still on there? Shit.
It's refreshing knowing my tax dollars are going to a police officer helping me make money on Monday.
Hopefully. But so once it breaks that my 0 line, what I'll do is, again, usually the 10% and the 169 extension is a bounce point. It'll bounce off of that and come back down. As you can see, it come up here, it broke through it, it wicked right to the 10% line, and come back down. And obviously this time it didn't. It broke up above it. So once it breaks that, once it hits that 272 line, that's where I'll draw my fib point. Back to that 272. And then wait for, here's a double top. So here on this red candle is where I would have got in, and I would have played back to the 236 would be my target. Because usually when it breaks back to the downside, it'll retrace to this 236 level and then bounce back up. And that's basically what it did. It come down here. Of course, it broke below it or whatever, chopped around, and then it, again, rose back up. And then what did it do? It stayed on that 10% line. Yeah, it wicked above it, but it didn't push above that 169. Come down, and when it did break down, where did it break down to? This 236 line again. So once it broke down, come down that 236 line, stayed around there. If it doesn't break down through here, obviously means it's probably going to push back up. Where did it push back up to? That 10% line again. Come back down. This time it didn't actually push down to the 236. So when it didn't push down to the 236, in my mind, I figured we were going to actually break through and go up. And it didn't. It just hit that 10% and come back down here. Again, it chopped around, and at the end of the day, it went up. So for me, it's a patient play. I would have got in on the one of the fib right, what was it? This line right here is when I would have got in on this double top. I would have played that back to this 236 line and got out. And then here I would have played, but I didn't have, I was sleeping, I think, here on this day, but I would have played this retracement back to this 236 is where I would have gone in. And that's how I play the fibs. Again, I use the RV to help me, and the stochastics to help me get into it. Like this trade here, yeah, the RV was up, but down here the stochastics broke, the RSI, everything was pushing back to the downside. The weighted started pushing down, the unweighted was pushing down. So yeah, I would have got in on that one right there. Let me go to a clean chart, because there's a lot of mess on here. There we go. Here we go. So the day before, obviously played the 5 minute. Again, the 3 minute orb I wouldn't have got in. I would have got in on the 5 minute orb on that day. And as you can see, it was a winner for me. I got in and I ended up getting out. But then after that, I'd switch over again to the 3 minute to draw my fibs, because that's what I trade off of, is the 3 minute chart. I believe by the time I switch back, I think that's where it was. So here it come down, like I said, it hit this 10%, hit the 169% again, banking that it's going to hit this 236 or the 236 line. So I believe I got in on this one here, and it went up, hit the 236 line. It actually pushed above it, and then I exited on this red candle here because it stayed up. Of course, I got 5. I got out 2 here, and then I got out another 2 on the, I think it was the 5, and then this red candle I got out of my 1 as it was coming back. But for fib wise, again, it hit this 50% line, and once it hits there, anywhere from the 382, like I said, to that 786 is a bounce point. I don't blindly just jump in. Down here, the RV's below, the weighted and unweighted's below, the RVSI's turning down, but the stochastics aren't. I didn't get in this trade because I already had 2 trades under my belt, but this would have been a one to get into with the retracement. If anything, I might have waited till this other candle where the stochastic started crossing down below it too. And then my profit target when I do the fibs is I usually go 2 below my entrance point is my target profit to start taking out, and 1 above my entrance point is my stop loss. So if I was to get in on this candle here, My first profit target would have been the 0 line. My next one would have been 2 lines down from there, would have been that 169, and my stop loss would have been this 382. Whenever a candle starts forming above that 382 is when I'd get out. And that's why I have all these lines on here. Normally the fibs, they'll come with the 0 to the 1. They'll usually have, I think, the 382, probably the 5 and the 618. Some of them might have the 786 and the 236. All the other lines that I have added here, these extensions, they are just profit target levels, except the 10% and the 169. They're bounce points that I've found just from playing the fibs now for 3 months, that once it breaks through that anchor point, usually it'll come down to that 10% and 169 and bounce, and if it doesn't, it usually pushes down to the 5 level, which it did here. But what I would have did here, as once this one here broke down and hit that 272, that's when I would have redrawn my fib to that candle that broke it. And then what did these ones do? It bounced right off the 10%, come back up to the 236 level. And it's just crazy how these fibs work like that. Like I said, if it's going to bounce, normally it'll bounce. And even in chat, I'd be saying, oh, if it's going to bounce here, I'll look for it to bounce up to the 236 level. Couldn't it push past it like it did here? Yeah. Could it not retrace the whole way up there? True, it might not. But normally, if it bounces, it's this 236 level. And then, like here, when it started bouncing back down, I was expecting it to come back down at least to the 10% level. And it didn't. But yeah, that's how I play the fibs, is I'll move it when needed. And once it breaks below, like it didn't break below and hit the 272 here, it just hit that 10%, so I don't move my anchor point until it would break down to this 272 level. And then if it did, I'd move it down to wherever it was at that 272, and then just keep doing it that way. Any questions on that with the fibs? I know it's pretty quick and confusing, I'm sure. I mean, the hardest part about a fib is to draw where you're going to start and put it. Normally, everybody that trades the fibs usually start at the high day, low day, and then it'll just keep moving it down to the low day. And then, obviously, if it broke down to another low day, they'd move it down to the other low day. But like I said, what I did with the fibs, what I found was until it breaks this 272 level, there's a good chance it's going to bounce back up. And when it does, it's usually the 10% and the 169% is usually where it bounces up at. So I started playing it, and I just noticed this I'd say about a month ago in June, is when it hits that 10%. In the 10% and 169, it'll bounce back up and hit that 236 level. So I started playing that retracement back up to there. Yeah, any questions on that? Cool. Clear as mud. Actually, we've got some people muted here. Unmute some people.
No, I got it. I think I've just got shitty service where I'm at.
And D-Bot, he's in here. He muted himself, but he uses the ORB. I don't want to put him on the spot, but but do you want to talk about any of the ORB plays you've done there, D-Bot?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
This is Jada. I wanted to ask if you could show one more time how you place your fib levels once it crosses. I think you're saying once it crosses the 272 line, you draw a whole new fib from there to create the target. Is that what you're saying?
So we'll just use this here for example. I'll start the fib at the high day, and then I'll bring it down. Once it breaks we'll just say it's on that second candle. I drew from this candle to this candle. Actually, why don't I just do it this way? It'd be the easiest. I'll replay it and show you how I do it. So normally I'm already in the orb play, so I don't really use my fibs for the orb. But we'll just say I'm not in the orb, how I would draw my fibs. So here it wicked down, but the body didn't close at that 272, so I wouldn't move my fib point right there. On that candle there, I'd say, oh shit, it broke down below it, so I'm drawing my anchor point to the bottom of that candle. Here it hit the 10%, so in my mind, I'm thinking it's probably going to retrace back up here to the 236. If it breaks below this 10%, it's probably going to, well, the 169 is the other bounce point. If it breaks below that, it's probably going to hit this 272 line. So it's using that 169. So now on that green candle, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, it's going to come back up here and hit this 236 line. And on that wick there, what did it do? It hit actually higher than that, 382. But I wouldn't redraw my fibs until it would break down and hit this 272 line.
So you're just constantly redrawing your fibs as the chart develops.
Yeah, so like right now, I wouldn't be redrawing it because nothing's telling me for it to be redrawn yet. So I just be watching. So on this line here, it hit the 272. That's when I would redraw my bottom anchor to the bottom of that one. Again, this is just how I play it. Like I said, other people, how they play it is they'll draw it and constantly move it from the high a day to the new low a day. They'll just draw their point. But since I play a retracement from these 10% and 169 level, I'll wait and see what it's going to do. If it's going to bounce off it, as you can see, it's wicking off at 10%. On that green candle here, again, I'd be thinking it's going to push back up to the 236 line.
Okay.
Here,
so this,
if I was in a trade,
this can put right now until it reverses with the green candle.
Sorry, what was that again?
You were thinking put until it went to the green candle, or you were looking at the green candle for an entry for a call?
So here, on this double top here where it hit the 618 and bounced down, since the RV's red, the weighted and unweighted is below it, this could have been an entrance point on this candle because it broke down. And then how I played is if I would have got in at this 618 level, 2 fib points down, I would have got out of 2 of my 5 contracts. And then 2 more fib points down, I would have got out of 2 more of mine. And I'd have 1 runner on, and then as soon as there's a green candle, I would get out. So I would have got out there. Since it bounced off this 10%, in my mind, I'm thinking we're going to hit this 236 line. So for me, how I would play it is I would have got in on this green candle here because it bounced back up. I would have got out because it almost hit the 236. I probably would have got out of all my trades there thinking, okay, it just wicked up there. It's probably going to push back down there. But it would have kept moving up, though. But to be on the safe side, I would have got out on that candle because it come close to it.
Okay. And the last question, how do I access this recording?
I'm going to send it to Jimmy because usually my audio's screwed up and he usually fixes it for me. But I'll put it on the YouTube channel too, and I think I posted the link to the YouTube in one of the Patreon chats or whatever. And then you can view it there.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you for doing this.
Oh, no problem. Anybody else got anything?
Hey, D-Bot here.
There he is.
So, I don't really have much to share. I'm on my phone, but I did want to give a shout out here. This is Fibonacci has been helping me a lot working with the ORB, and I've been trading the 3-minute ORB probably for last month. But what I've been doing, based on he had made a video, and he kind of helped out with like, oh, this is where I put my stop, and it's around 386, I think, and then this is my first take profit and my second. But what I've been working on as well, which is kind of what I'm trying to get towards, is I'm working on writing Pine script to backtest it with TradingView. And what I've discovered so far, just with the basic script, is that this is it can be a very profitable system if you can trade like a robot, which I'm trying my best. But basically, it's just a shout out. Like I think there's probably other systems that could work, but just from doing some basic backtesting, I think there's a lot of success here, or that can be. I'm having a lot, and I'm finding good results. So yeah, just shout out.
See, you like on this doji candle, you actually get in on that 3-minute, right? Right there, you would go.
Well,
where I would
so
switch
on my
to the
back.
5.
Yeah, I know, and I know a lot of guys are saying on the channel, they'll be like, "Oh, that was too much of an indecision channel or indecision candle." But when I was backtesting, or what I've been finding, okay, the backtesting that I'm doing is just simple, and it's basically get in anytime on a break. So that happens every day, obviously, and just even doing the backtesting of a basic thing and having a 1 stop and 1 loss, the win percentage is really high. If your profit take isn't super high, so you're just taking a small profit. So obviously, if you can scale up your the amount that you can take, then that could work. But I guess what I mean is once it breaks, getting to that 272 point is very likely. I was finding like 60%. So it's very high. But obviously, I need more. But I need to work on the script a bit more to be more confident in it. But I'm just saying, when I'm playing it, I'm just testing it out. I am practice trading, so this is not real money, guys. But I don't want to put my real dough in yet till I'm there.
Cool. Yeah, I seen you posting in Spy Pit. You know, you're always like, well, it hit again. 3-minute hit again.
Yeah. Well, and I want you to know, like, it's been successful, and I think other people need to know too. Like, I really want to trade Jimmy's levels, but I just don't have the time for it right now, and it can be, for me, it's a little bit too much for my workday. So eventually I'll get there, but in the meantime, I want to work on something that I can be in and out in like 20 minutes, and this has been working. So yeah, maybe in the future I can share what I'm backtesting if I get a little further, but yeah, I just want to give you a shout out because I know you were asking me to share, and I don't know if that's helpful for anyone, but maybe it'll give someone confidence to work with it.
Yeah, definitely. You have to let me know how that backtesting works. I'll be interested because I went back 2 months just before I did the video here, and it seemed, like I said, the ones that are playable, you know, they actually hit the profit targets for sure.
Yeah, I really do think it's a profitable strategy. Just from my initial, I'm a developer, so just from my initial what I could do, it seems like it is, but I need to add a lot more. Like you have a couple of profit taking points. You also take off like one piece and then a second piece and like leave a runner. I'd love to try all that out to see how successful those are in the long run.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, right? Doesn't everyone want the math behind it?
Hell
Because
yeah.
I really think if we can do that, you know, you're unstoppable.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate
Exactly. Great stuff.
it. All right, so we got where do I get the fib? On TradingView, this little squiggly or straight lines up here, if you click on that area, it's basically the fib retracement, and I just added it to my favorite bar, and that's why I go up here. I have my favorites bar where I can draw, you know, the trend line, horizontal line, and there's my supply and demand rectangle, and then the fibs. The main things that I use are right there, so I don't have to keep coming back over here. But that's where I do the fib tools, where I find it. And then, like I said, I've added the extensions and stuff to it. I think it's posted in the tips and tricks, the extensions. Most fibs, like I said, usually only have the 5, the 618, and the 786 levels. Of course, then the anchor points, the 0 and the 100. And I just found that the extensions really helped me out on. Before, I'd only played, like I said, those 382 levels and 5s and stuff. You know, just these retracements. I'd be missing out on a bunch of pullback until I found that, you know, hey, you know, it broke up here, but then right there is that 10%. And what did it do? It bounced back down to at least a 236 level. This time it actually pushed down to the 382, but you know, if I would have got in on that one, I would have got out on this green candle. But I mean, you could see that this is a different day, and it's doing the same thing. And once it hits that 10% level, if it doesn't push through and it pulls back, it usually pulls back to this 236 level. It's almost nothing's guaranteed, obviously. But like I said, if I would have got in here, my stop loss would have been right here above this green fib. And this time I'm playing it to the 236, which is roughly, it's 2, 1, 2, it'd be 3 down. But on that one there, I don't do the 2 fib points because my target area is at 236.